Hello, welcome to ChamberLIVE, the return of East Lancashire's exclusive network for sales professionals. It's called Sales Club, and it's brought to you with our friends at Sales Geek and us at the East Lancashire Chamber of Commerce. The views expressed in this webinar don't necessarily represent the views of the East Lancs Chamber of Commerce, and all facts are believed to be correct at the time of recording, which is the 13th of May 2021. That's the disclaimers out of the way. The last 14 months have brought change, challenge, and opportunity. But businesses and consumers have never stopped buying, and smart businesses haven't stopped selling. Today, Sales Geek are going to look at the challenges that Lancashire SMEs and beyond face with regards to revenue generation in 2021, how to navigate and plan for growth, what issues could affect your pipeline, and how data could transform your future performance. That's a hell of a lot of ground to cover in just an hour. So let's wheel out the geeks. Now, imagine if the one thing that you were truly passionately geeky about and the industry that you'd toiled in for 15 years was viewed with contempt by everyone else, that sales was a dirty word. Well, that's the situation that Richard Few was faced with just 4 years ago. The crazy grind of the workplace was wearing him down. Sales being a dirty word was just irritating him. So, armed with the courage of his convictions, a bundle of optimism and a solid business plan, he built the award-winning, multi-award-winning Sales Geek with a simple mission to change the way the world perceives sales. He began by making top-level sales leadership affordable for small and medium-sized businesses for the first time. And as the company's grown, it's now on the cusp of revolutionizing the global sales training industry with the world's first free sales training app. They've got an audacious goal of 1 million users by 2030. And it's been described as a hand grenade in the heart of traditional sales training playbook and the fulfillment of Richard's lifelong ambition. We'll meet Richard in just a moment. Also with us, Sales Geek Group Sales Director Jonathan Finch. He's a force of nature. As you're about to find out, you better hold on tight. If Jonathan's on your side, things will happen fast. He's in the sales A team, and he loves it when a plan comes together for clients. He's got a real drive in sales, an ambition to train the next generation of sales leaders. So it was a match made in geek heaven when he joined forces with Richard. Together they co-founded Sales Geek Training, and he's consistently driving Sales Geek forward. He's got an unbelievable record for conversion rates, an increasing your top line, and a very modest bio as well. Jonathan's experience and knowledge is world class. There are two speakers this morning, ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Finch and Richard Few.
Good morning. For the record as well, Finchy gives really good hugs.
Great hugs.
Well, it's great to see you all. It feels like, I know we've got a little bit blurry here, sorry, a bit of focus issues on the camera, but it feels like ages since the last Sales Club. And it also feels like only yesterday that we did our first ever one, which was now probably about 2.5 years ago at the Chamber offices, when I think we had about 45 people planned to turn up, and a few more turn up, and we had standing room only, which was amazing. And we've seen Sales Club ebb and flow over the last 2.5 years. And I think just before lockdown, I think we peaked out having 100 people at Holmes Mill. I think was about where we peaked out at. And hopefully, as Simon alluded to, come September, we'll be able to replicate those things. But I just want to kick off with a few short words before I hand over to Jonathan, who's going to introduce the content. Just to, I suppose, reintroduce Sales Club. There's some new faces on here. There's also some familiar faces, some people that actually I feel like I haven't seen for an absolute age. So hello, and don't be strangers, message me. We can hug from next week, so why not? So Sales Club ultimately aligns with our mission. The reason why we decided to do Sales Club with the Chamber was that we believe in a world where sales is no longer a dirty word, and we want to change that perception of sales. It breaks our heart that this thing that we love, that's given us a career, that's given us an opportunity to have a good life, to travel the world, to have a decent career, is viewed by many as a dirty word. And doesn't need to be, because sales done well is about service, it's about authenticity, it's about listening and learning, it's about empathy, and ultimately it's about solving people's problems. And done well, it is an amazing thing. And this is where Sales Club plays a part. Sales Club ultimately is about building out community. This is for you guys to hang out with other people just like you. Everyone on this call, to some degree or another, I'm sure is responsible for generating income and revenue or fees for their business in some ways. So we are all in sales by default, whether we have the word in our job title, whether it was our first career choice when we were leaving school or not, we are in sales. Everyone is in sales to some degree or another. And we can play our little part in this little corner of East Lancashire in changing how people feel and act in our sales profession. So come and join our community. We're going to learn something. We're going to network together. We might even do some business together again once we're back together face to face. We're not here to sell to each other. We're just here to learn. But the first rule of Sales Club, is tell everyone about Sales Club. We want 100 people in the room come September. So this is your chance to play your first role in this meeting. Please take a selfie, a screenshot, anything you got. Let's get it out there publicly on LinkedIn so we can tell the world what we're doing, that we're proud that we're bettering ourselves, we're proud that we're learning, we're proud that we're part of this profession. Let's share it with the world, or at least East Lancashire, and let's get 100 people in the room come September, and we could all hug a llama. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Chief Hugger, Mr. Jonathan Finch.
Well, just before you do that, I'm going to get myself in here. Are we getting rich? Brilliant. Well, guys, very good morning and warm welcome to this Sales Club. Delighted to be here. It seems ages since we were doing it face to face. I'm very excited to get it back face to face. Until then, though, because everybody keeps saying this is the new normal. So what we're going to be talking about today, guys, there's going to be a few different things. I'm just going to do a very quick screen share with you to run through a bit of an agenda. Debbie, you'll have to give me screen share. It says it has been disabled from screen sharing. I don't know.
She's seen your search history, mate.
Just bear with me, guys.
No, just while we're starting that, I mean, the first thing that we're going to be talking about today, a lot of you who attended Sales Club over the last few years will have received the Lancashire Sales Survey, which we sent out to hundreds of organisations across Lancashire in the hope that we could get as much information from you guys as possible about what you wanted us to present on Sales Club. There's so many different challenges and so many different things that people face within sales on an everyday basis. We wanted to make sure that everything that we're going to be delivering for you over the next 12 months and everything that you guys are going to be learning is going to be relevant for you and it's going to be worthwhile for you guys. So we pulled together the Lancashire Sales Survey. We got all of the geeks together and put in everything really that we were seeing all across businesses in Lancashire, issues, challenges that people were facing, and we wanted to pull that into a survey. The results were absolutely fantastic. We're going to run through some of these in a second, and it really shows, I think, one for us, there's other organisations across the county who are facing the same problems. New business generation has been a real challenge for people over this time. Big part of that has been the new normal, as everyone keeps saying. Sales processes have changed. No longer were myself and Rich bombing around the county quite as much. We were much more sat behind a laptop speaking to people from all across the UK. And while COVID did some great things for us, it also made us reassess and change a lot of our processes. So we're talking a little bit about that. Can everybody see a big yellow banner there with Sales Club on? Wonderful. Okay. So format and agenda for today then. The four topics we're going to be talking about. First one, the Lancashire Sales Survey, just giving you guys some feedback around that and what it was and the results from it as well. Some really interesting stats in there. Then we're going to be talking about Bob and his biscuits. Got a mate called Bob. He owns a biscuit company. Very good business model. We're going to talk about Bob's sales model. Then we're going to move on to prospecting. The reason for that will become very obvious when we start talking about the Lancashire Sales Survey. And then I'm going to leave you all with not just one, but a couple of sales nuggets, things that are really going to help you over the next few weeks, over the next couple of months until we get back together with prospecting. It's the key thing that we've seen. So a very brief summary on the Lancashire Sales Survey. We sent it out to over 50 businesses. More than that came back to us on it. So I'll run through again the results in a second. But we asked a number of topics related to sales and revenue generation, all different industries and sizes. And this is going to be used to decide the themes for future sales clubs. We're also going to run this again in around 6 months' time. I'm guessing everybody's challenges and the things people are struggling with now, if we look in 6 months, will be slightly different. So we're going to run this again in around 6 months. But first and foremost, this is something that we use as part of our surveying tool when we go out to all teams, and it looks slightly complex. So what I've done is simplified it. If we rated in order the challenges that people feel like they are facing at the moment when it comes to revenue generation, these were the ones that people ranked 1 being their worst and biggest challenge at the moment, the thing that they are really struggling with, all the way down to 14 going, you know what, it's a bit of a problem, but it's not something that I'm really finding challenging. So just have a quick look through those stats there and just have a see about 2 or 3 things there that you think personally you might be finding challenging. I'll give you a second to just have a quick run through those and read those through. Now, as I mentioned before, the top 3 things that are in there, finding new clients, gaining and building new sales pipeline, getting prospects to say yes, all come under that fresh business category, bringing in more revenue, going out to the market sector, finding new people who want to work with us and bringing them into us. Now, We find this a lot with clients. One of the biggest inquiries that we get from organizations is people saying to us, we really struggle when it comes to finding new business. And towards the end of this, I'm going to give you some really good top tips and things that you can actually do to go out to the market sector to find new business. But the one thing that I just want to put in there to start with is that finding new clients is a short-term solution to a long-term problem. If you look at any organization within the world, the only way that companies grow and that companies get larger is by retaining clients, upselling, cross-selling, and bringing new stuff in, but then servicing it for longer. One of the biggest mistakes that we see with clients is the churn rate that they bring people in. They bring them in and then they go over to someone else, and then they bring them in and then they go over to someone else. If you want to create a really hard-hitting pipeline and a really business that is focused on growth, we need to get into our heads that it is all around the account management, upsell and cross-sell side, as well as referrals, which is something that we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, the mindset you need to get into it. Every single invoice that you send out from your business, either as a business owner or as a salesperson, has a cost behind it. Without any shadow of a doubt, the most expensive invoices you send out are to the newest customers that you found. The cost of revenue generation with new business and new clients is much higher than the recurring invoices and the new invoices and the cross-sell invoices that you'll generate from the clients that you've already got. So you have to think about what revenue you really want.
Now, I've got a mate. My mate is called Bob. And Bob, during lockdown, decided that Bob was going to open himself a biscuit company. So I like making biscuits. Biscuits are my sort of thing. So I'm going to start making some biscuits.
Bob looks like you.
Bob does look like me, actually. I've got that as well. Bob's business model is dead simple. Dead simple. Bob makes a certain amount of biscuits. He then finds a buyer for his biscuits and he makes profit on those biscuits. So you can see here, there's a bit of a slide that says Bob's management account's there. He starts off with £100. He pays out £100 for his materials. And a buyer comes in, Dave comes in, for example, buys some biscuits off Bob, and Bob makes himself £100 off doing that. It's a very simple business model. Now, what I want you all to just take a second to do and put these on the chat, but Bob's buying £100 worth of ingredients, selling £200 worth of biscuits, which makes him £100. How can Bob make more money? If you're on the chat, just put a few different ways in the chat that Bob could go out and get more revenue, make more profit from his business. Stuart Lee, charge more for his biscuits. Absolutely, could raise his prices. Biscuits are now £2 each rather than £1 each. Absolutely, could raise his prices. Paul, bundle the products. Yeah, absolutely. Reduce the cost of the materials. Love that. Go and have a negotiation with your supplier. Find a more competitive supplier, negotiate a better buying price. A lot of negotiation coming on here.
Buy his butter from Aldi.
Yeah.
Other supermarkets are available. Just
Vicky, yeah, Bob can charge more, spend less, market better, and sell more. Flipping out, loads of stuff could do.
buy Bitcoin.
Buy Bitcoin, yeah. Biscuit Bitcoin, yeah. Okay, so we're going to look through a few different scenarios here. The first scenario is for Bob to go out and to find more people to buy his biscuits. At the very start, if we imagine that Bob's got one client, Bob's gone out and he's found Dave's Dairy, and Bob is selling his £100 worth of biscuits to Dave's Dairy. That's where his starting point. He then asks Dave's Dairy, Dave, do you know anyone else who might buy my biscuits? Do you know anyone else? Asks him for a referral. Dave says, do you know what? I've actually got a mate called Ben's Burgers. Ben's Burgers might buy a few biscuits off you. Now, Ben's Burgers not quite as big as Dave's Dairy, but they still buy a few biscuits, 50 quid worth of biscuits. He keeps doing this, and he asks Ben's Burgers, and he asks everyone else that he speaks to if there are any more clients, and he ends up with Pete's Pies, Dom's Donuts, and Kate's Cakes, all buying biscuits. Now, the problem is here, if I just go back to the last slide, you can see that Dave's Dairy was originally buying £100 worth of biscuits. Because Bob has been so focused on revenue generation and new business, he doesn't go around to see Dave as much. He doesn't drop by to see how Dave's getting on, see if he needs anything else. And Dave stops selling as many of his biscuits and starts using someone else, and he only starts spending 50 quid with him. So now it looks like he's in a great position because he's got loads more new clients on. But what happens is he keeps focusing on new business acquisition, and eventually Dave's Dairy stops buying from him completely. Now, if we look at the top right of the screen, you can see that you've got the profit that he's making there. So at the very start, he was doing £100 worth of profit from Dave's Dairy, then went to 150 because he got Ben's Burgers on. But then because he didn't look after his key account, Dave's Dairy, he went back to 150. And then from there, He carried on going and he's actually back to £100. The problem that he has here is he's now got 4 clients, 4 lots of deliveries, 4 lots of drop-offs that he has to do, and he's only making the same profit that he was at the start. Now, you can look at this in 2 ways. You can look at this and go, well, that's better, because if he did lose one of those clients, at least he's still got the other 3, but there's a heck of a lot of work here for Bob to be doing. Now, at the end of that 4-month period, Bob has made £500 worth of profit. So he's done all right. He's not done too badly over his 4-month period. So again, I'm just going to ask the same question again. Based on that scenario that we had there, how could Bob have made more money? What else could Bob have done in that month to make sure that he made more profit at the end of it? And that 500 would either 600 or 700 or 800. Give me a second to put some more stuff on the chat there. Adam sells some milk with his biscuits. Love that. We're going to come back to that one. Great one. Paul, get Dave to buy more. Devoted more time to account management. Tom, absolutely. Look after his #1 customer, absolutely. And again, this is proving the point here about retention.
Well, what's the question I've got for everyone, and fire some answers on here. What's the other cost to Bob losing Dave as a client or getting less business from Dave? What else is that going to make happen? Let's see what comes through. Poor reputation, that's one of them. Yeah, reputational issues. So reputational issues is one of them. What else does it do? Do you think if Dave was selling £200 worth of biscuits before, is he still selling £200? Does he still need to go and buy £200 worth of biscuits? Yes, he does. So that means he's going to go and buy them from somewhere else. So actually what Bob is doing is fueling his competitors. He's leaving some oxygen in the room for his competitors to grow. And if his competitors start selling biscuits to what was his most loyal customers, he's fueling their growth to then go and compete with them in the other clients that he's been and won.
So the good thing about Bob that I didn't tell you, Bob's also got a time machine. Now, yeah, it's always good for us to have. But Bob decides he's going to go back to the start of that month and realizes he's not done the best thing. And Bob says, do you know what? I realize I've done the wrong thing here. He's had a session with Sales Geek. He's probably done the wrong thing. Go back. Why don't you focus on account management? So Bob goes back to the very start. Again, 1 client there, Dave's Dairy. Now, what Bob says here is, do you know what? I am still going to look at getting some new clients on. He speaks to Dave. Dave says that he's going to get him in contact with Ben's Burgers. But what he does is he makes sure he keeps his relationship up with Dave and keeps upping the amount that he's selling to him. So he started selling £100 to Dave. He's now selling £120 to Dave because he dropped in a bit more. Is there any banners I could give you? Is there any posters I could give to advertise a bit? Giving a little bit more with it. He then brings on Ben's Burgers, keeps focusing on account management. So now he's selling £140 to Dave's Dairy, £60 to Ben's Burgers, £25 to Dom's Donuts. But because he's not focusing too much on acquisition, he grows the accounts that he's got here. And you can see that all of these are going up. But what he's not doing is bringing in as many clients as he was doing before. Now, at the end of that 4 months, Bob's done better, though. He's not gone absolutely all out on a sales mission. When I say a sales mission, going out and catching fresh business and bringing it back, he's focused on the account management side, and that's given him a £740 profit at the end of that. So same question to the group again. If Bob had his time machine and could go back to the start of that month, what else could Bob have done? Where could he have spent his time to give himself more profit? Give me a second to put some stuff on the chat there, guys. Different products to offer. Fantastic, Paul, yeah. Jumping ahead, but we're going to come to that one, absolutely.
He's on fire this morning. Go on, lad.
No messing. Understand what value adds for companies providing that? Yes, Vicky, yeah, absolutely. So the next scenario here, Bob gets in his time machine, he goes back to the start of the month and he says, do you know what? I've learned a bit of a lesson here. I need to focus on my fresh stuff, but I also need to account manage the stuff that I've got. The more time I spend with existing clients, the more money they seem to end up paying me. So Bob goes out again, does his £100 worth of biscuits to Dave's Dairy, sells his £50 to Ben's Burgers, but he also keeps pushing on that sales mission, but make sure he's focusing on dropping in on these people, making sure he knows what they need, how they're getting on with his biscuits, if they need any advertising from him, and he keeps growing these accounts moving forward. Now, at the end of that month, there's an even bigger difference there, a £985 profit. Now, remembering that Bob started off with £100 in his bank account, Bob's doing pretty well at this point. Bob's thinking about buying himself a van. Nice, nice.
Posh fan,
very posh fan. So again, how could Bob have made more money on there? Now, the final scenario, Bob decides, yeah, he could have done Key Fleet, yeah, he could lease one, absolutely. Doesn't need his van, he's got a time machine. That doesn't help him go around to drop off his biscuits, though. Means he can go back, but not around. Okay. So scenario four. Bob says, I'm going to go back to the start. I'm going to focus on fresh sales, account management, and a few people have mentioned this, but new products. This is one thing that I'm an absolute stickler for this, but forgetting that we have other things to sell to our existing clients. Existing clients are really, really easy when it comes to converting and getting them to buy something else from you, because you don't have to go through any of the process that you do with fresh business of building trust, which is pretty much the most difficult part of the sales process. If someone trusts you and they trust that you'll give them a great solution, if you have something else that will add benefit, we need to be focusing on this. So Bob gets back in his time machine, goes back to the start of month one, make sure he's account managing with Dave's Dairy, make sure he's account managing Ben's Burgers. He also makes sure he's going Kate's Cakes, Dom's Donuts, Pete's Pies, and doing everything that we mentioned before. Now, Bob has a bit of a brainwave at the end of the month, and it's a good one. When I say it's a good one, it's an absolute belter. Bob rings all of his clients, and he asks them, you fancy a bit of Bob's banana bread as well?
Good stuff.
Yeah, brilliant stuff, brilliant stuff. Now what happens is that Bob has got 2 revenue streams coming in from each of those clients, just for asking one simple question. Do you want to trial some of our banana bread? Do you want to try this and see how it goes? So at the end of that month, Bob's ended up with £1,575 profit. So to do a quick comparison on those numbers, he started off with £100, just focusing on sales, got him £500. Just focusing on account management, got him £740. Account management and sales got him £985, but account management, sales, and new products got him £1,575. Now, in future sales clubs, we may come back to Bob, because there is other things that Bob could do to increase revenue. Quite a few of them came up there. The word referral came up quite a bit there, and absolutely, we added that into the mix. But the key takeaway for me here, guys, is this isn't actually about revenue. You can look at those numbers there and go, that's a huge revenue exercise, but it's about where you personally are spending your time. Now, there's a quick exercise I'm going to do with all of you here, which is going to help you work out how much your time is worth in a sales capacity. Now, when I say in a sales capacity, I'm talking completely commercially here. If everyone's got a pad and a pen in front of them, if not, just grab a calculator. Give you a second to grab that, or to grab a pad and a pen. This is a really useful exercise that's really going to help you. So I'm just going to jump onto our board over here and show you these calculations. So all I want you to do is just write down the amount of revenue you are planning to bill in 12 months. So over a 12-month period, what is the target you are setting yourself? If you haven't got this, give us a shout, we'll help you get the target, but make sure you've got something in your head. So if I said, for example, my sales target, as an example, was £1 million for the year. That is the amount that I'm targeting myself to do within that year. The next thing I want you to do is divide that number by 220. Once you've done that calculation, divide that number there by the amount of hours that you work within a day. So if it's 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours, some people might be 14 hours, but divide that number there you've got by the amount of hours that you work in a day. So for this example here, if I've got my calculator and worked out 1 million divided by 220 divided by 8 equals 568.18. This is, that number that you've got in front of you now is what your time is worth for you as a salesperson. And the reason that I say this is we spend a lot of time as salespeople sometimes doing minor tasks. And there's another exercise that we'll do another day here about major time and minor time. But if you are going to really start hitting those big numbers and you're really going to go after some of those key accounts, the ones that are really going to give you the big numbers back, you need to be looking at where you're spending your time. Because if we've done that division there and worked out that our time is worth per hour £568.18 there, if you're spending your time on something that isn't going to bring you back that in revenue, you're never going to get to that target. And this helps us to break down where we're spending our time and what we're doing.
So the other question you need to ask yourself, you've worked out your value and where you should be spending your time. The other question you need to ask is, what is the true value of the client? So if we go back to, just go back a couple of slides, dude, to, also, I cannot believe that we've got at least one accountant on this call. No one's challenged Finch's profit figures, but that's, Helen Binns, where are you? Right, so when we look at this slide, where are we? So we look at this slide. So we look at Dave's Dairy. Open question to everyone. Please put your answers on the chat group. What is the value of Dave's Dairy as a customer to Bob's Biscuits? 45% as a percentage of sales, lifetime value unlimited. Okay, so we're on the right track. Okay, and I think this is one thing, well, I keep going in and out of, it's my massive head, the camera can't deal with it. One thing that people massively underestimate is the true value of their client. They just look at what money they're spending with them. So a lot of people would look at that and go, Dave spent £160 with Bob. Therefore, Dave's value is £160. Well, it's not £160, is it? Because Dave might open 3 or 4 new sites. So we can times that figure by 4 now, because over the next 2 years, Dave's got some expansion plans. And the great thing about Dave opening 3 or 4 new sites is it costs Bob no more money to sell him 4 times as many biscuits. But when Dave's buying 4 times as many biscuits and he's spending a lot more money on biscuits across his group, what's he likely to do? He's likely to question his supply chain. He's likely to question whether he's getting best value for money. Now, if he's been really well looked after by Bob, I mean really well looked after, Bob's going the extra mile. He's not just sending him biscuits and sending him an invoice and taking the money. He's going above and beyond and he's looking after him. How much less likely is Dave to want to change supplier? Because one thing I can always guarantee you, everyone on this call, to some level or another, wants some new business. We know from the survey it's the #1 thing that people want. The point is, everyone wants it, which means that the other suppliers that your customers right now could have, those other people are also after new business, which means your customers are in other people's target lists. Now, you might not want to hear that, and it's not always a nice thing to hear, but it's true. You cannot take for granted the customers that you've got, because customers grow. But the other thing that customers do, we've alluded to it earlier, we're not going to go into a lot of detail about this, is they refer. And actually a lot more of them would refer if you asked, but that's a different session. But they ask, and if you ask, you get referrals. So let's say Bob goes to Dave after 12 months of selling some biscuits and said, Dave, do you know what? I love working with you with a client. You are a great client of ours. We love working with you. And I really want to build my business off working with people just like you. And Dave turns around and says, well, do you know what? I'm part of this networking group for ice cream shops. And there's 4 or 5 other guys in that group and girls in that group that are also having problems with their biscuit supplier. I'll introduce you. So he gets 4 referrals. All of a sudden, his £160 turns into, I'll do the math, £640, give or take.
Lots of pounds.
But the other thing is, those people are going to know people who are going to know people. And somebody once told me, not that many moons ago, that you already know all the people you need to know in order to make the money that you want to make. You just don't know them well enough yet. Hopefully, to some level or another, that statement might change how you feel about hunting for new business and where you go hunting for it. So have a think about the genuine total value of a client to you. It's not just the invoice that you send them. It's so much more than that. It's their recommendations, it's their referrals, it's them supporting you, sponsoring you, saying good things about you in the marketplace, which kind of leads us seamlessly as we blast through the slides. Before we kind of move on from that as a topic, has anybody got any questions that relates directly to anything we've covered so far, other than challenging Jonathan's profit numbers?
Sales, not accountancy. We just get the numbers out, bring the numbers in.
Yeah, I mean, Danny's just put on there, if you're not talking to your customers, someone else is. I just couldn't agree more. I know we're in quite a unique position. We work across a lot of different businesses. And over the last 4 years, we have at times worked with businesses that are in the same sector. I cannot tell you how often other people's customers appear on other people's target lists. Somebody today has your customer on their target list, and you've got that customer penned in to spend some money with you for the next month, the next quarter, the next year, the next 3 or 4 years. Someone else is going to be fighting for that revenue, so fight harder. But the good news is you've got a head start because you've already got the relationship.
So we've talked quite a lot there about the higher level stuff, a bit more around strategy, where we're spending our time. But one of the biggest things people had asked for on Lancashire Lancashire Sales Survey was all around how to bring in fresh business. And I want to make sure that we're going to cover that this morning. But Richard's just going to run a quick session here around how to stop playing a finite game when it comes to fresh business generation.
So some of you guys have probably heard of a chap called Simon Sinek. He's famous for Start With Why. He's also got a great book called The Infinite Game, which is about business strategy, but actually you can apply the philosophy to most things in business. And for me, when it comes to generating new business and prospecting, you have to take the infinite game mindset to it. Like Jonathan said at the beginning, going out and finding fresh new business sometimes is a short-term solution to a long-term problem. And people get very, very narrowed, keep getting blurry, very narrowed and very focused in what they're doing. And the danger of that is, what's the cost of doing that? And a lot of people don't stop and think about what's the cost of just going out and relentlessly prospecting, walking into rooms, just trying to find people that are going to buy my stuff, spamming people to death on LinkedIn, emails, all the bad stuff that people do. There's a cost associated to that. There's a reputational cost to doing that. And it's not healthy for your long-term success as a business. Now, sometimes as a salesperson and organization, you might not think that far down the chain, but if your intention is to have a long-term career with the business that you're in, you cannot afford to burn the audience that you're going after. And a lot of people don't consider it this way. So hopefully, you've got the pens in here. I just want to talk to you about that prospect activity. So hopefully you guys can see my very primitive funnel on the screen behind me. So everyone has a sales funnel to some level or another. Sales funnel is a really, really simple idea. Some stuff comes in at the top. And in most cases, a little bit less comes out the bottom. Now, hopefully, when we get into account management and customer retention, we can turn that into a bit of an hourglass, but that's, again, different session. Hopefully, maybe in September, we'll talk about that. But for most people, they'll go out to the market, they go and find new customers, they go and speak to a ton of people, and some of them, hopefully, will turn into clients down here. Now, if you don't mind sharing, kind of cool if you don't, but if you wouldn't mind, a few of you on the chat group, from absolute out and out cold conversations and cold prospecting from scratch, what is your average conversion rate from that to having a client? So we've got 1 in 7. Who else is brave? 25%. Not a mile off. 25%. So John Connor, I'm going to come back to your question as well shortly. I've just seen your question there about B2C versus B2B. Okay, so we've got 1 in 7. They've got 2 lots of 25%. So what conclusion can we draw from that? And Steve's gone 50% on certain products. But what conclusion can we draw from those first 3 answers? What does that tell us? Need to convert more? Yes. That's definitely one solution to one. There's room for improvement? Yes. So when we step into businesses and we're looking at conversion rate, we're looking at lead through through the business. Yeah, Kath, 75% are going elsewhere. Well, 75% are doing something else other than buying. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going elsewhere necessarily, but they're not buying from you. But you're definitely on the right track. So whenever we step into a business and we look at this and we look at the flow from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel, and then let's say, because the figure's being used twice today, that is currently 25%, which is pretty average. We step into some businesses where it's as little as 10% in certain environments. We step into other businesses, it might be 45, 50%. But that's on the right line. What I'm interested in, yes, is some percentage improvement on that. So we can go through the sales stages, we can map that through, we can look at behaviors, and we can increase that conversion rate. Again, different session, not what we're going to cover today, but 100%, there is always some gains to be had in the conversion rate. What I want to talk about today is the other 75%. Now, most people forget about the other 75%. They write them off, they dismiss them, they can't buy my stuff, I'm not interested. But these other 75%, so these are the prospects you've gone out to the market. So these are your prospects, they're out there, sat in the marketplace, they're out there, tons of them out there, they're going to networking meetings, they go into events like this, they're speaking to the other people that are on this call. Now, in this other 75% that come in here, that you qualify at the top end of your funnel, where do the other 75% still go and live when they're not speaking to you? They go and hang out with these guys, okay? So they hang around up here. These can be the squares. These squares are people that have engaged with you, but they haven't bought from you. And it doesn't mean they're not going to buy from you ever, because sometimes it's just no, not now. In that 75%, how many people have you spoken to that have gone, do you know what, I love what you do. I'd love to get involved in what you're doing, or I'd love to buy from you. I just can't do it now. I either can't do it now for budgetary reasons, for contractual reasons, for whatever. The timing might just not be right. But in that 75% is an amount of people who will buy from you in the future, just not now. So my first question is, what are you doing with those guys? Where do they go now? Because unfortunately for most people, they go straight down here into the rubbish bin. Effectively, it's a proper rubbish bin, not modern wheelie bin, it's a proper garbage bin. But for most of those, they just go in there and die. And that's really sad, because you've had some conversations, you've partially qualified them, you know they have a need for what you do, but just not now. Those people have to go back into your CRM with a task. You need to diarize calling those people in a week, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, a year, whatever. They are your next round of semi-warm conversations that you're going to have. How much easier is it to call someone that you've already spoken to 6 months before versus making an out-and-out cold call? And most salespeople don't like cold calling. They'll do it, they'll find a way to do it, but there's not many people. There's a few rare breeds, like a certain Jonathan Finch, who's over to my side, who absolutely enjoy it. I never did as a salesperson, as a young salesperson. I found a way to be good at it, but I'm quite happy. The first book I ever read was Cold Calling for Chickens. I hated it. I used to shiver in my boots every time I used to have to get up in the morning and start making cold calls. But if you do this enough and you keep diarizing those people that are no, not nows, then you're going to make less cold calls. You're going to start making warmer calls. Now, also in that 75% number is people who could never buy what you do, but go and hang out with people who could buy what you do. And how much value is it to you to have them out there in the audience as fans, supporters, influencers, advocates of what you do? Massively valuable, right? It's what people say about you when you're not in the room that counts. So some of these people that come through, and you might qualify them out and say, do you know what? As much as I'd love to work with you as a client, this is just not going to work. We can't add the value that you want. We can't fix the problem that you have. You're just not in our target audience. But if you do the right things and leave them in a really, really good place, the probability and the propensity for them to go back into the market and either say nice things when asked or out and out advocate what you do is much, much higher. And if you can suffocate your network and your target audience with people, these squares, who are advocates and fans of what you do, whether they've bought your product or not, your long-term success, your infinite game is being played. Does that make sense? So my question for you, you don't have to answer this publicly. What does that interaction look like? How do you behave with people who cannot buy from you even now or ever again? And what are you doing to ensure that they become advocates of what you do? Because they are really important people in your process. How do you create influencers? How do you create advocates? How do you create sponsors? How do you create people that will say good things about you when you're not in the room and say good things about your brand? There's a ton more we can do on this, but I am conscious of time, and Finch has got some absolute killer content coming up. But has anybody got is there any questions on here that we need to attack just now? Yeah, so Elaine's asked a question, have we really listened to what they actually want? Sometimes not. So sometimes some of that 75% is lost opportunity, and that's where the improvement of conversion rate comes through behaviors and skills, definitely. We want to newsletters to keep in contact every 2 weeks. 100%. Just because someone hasn't bought from you now doesn't mean they don't want to hear from you. So I've got brands as a consumer that I've looked at the website, I've looked at bike parts and running shoes and different things. I might not have bought from that brand, but it doesn't mean I don't want to hear from them, because I might buy from them down the line. And also, even though I've not bought it for myself, I might have been so convinced by the product that when someone else has asked me, what would you recommend? I might still recommend that product. Everyone on this call, some level or another, would have recommended something. When we've got services as a business that we don't need, but it doesn't mean I won't recommend someone that I know is really good at it to someone else who does need it. But I'm not their target audience, but it doesn't mean I can't become a fan of their business. The sales funnel is not the best analogy when one thinks about it. Yeah, it's a funny one, the sales funnel. For me, I prefer sales pyramids, because actually you need to drag stuff up for it, but that's a different day, different conversation. And like I say, ideally we want to turn a sales funnel into an hourglass, but again, we will talk about that in a different conversation. The first sales job, Cole Bradshaw, first sales job was double glazing with a page in the phone book, put me on cold calling for years. Yes, brother, that certainly will. Finchy, over to you, bud.
He is right. I absolutely love cold calling. I can't think of anything I'd rather do than sit there with a list of leads and try and make some relationships. So what I'm going to try and do over the next about half an hour, maybe slightly less. If anyone needs to dip out, feel free to. The recording will be up later if you want to watch the rest of the session. We might run slightly over. But one of the things we found, obviously, from the Lancashire Sales Survey was how to win new business was a key thing, and a key thing people struggled with. Now, I used to be head of training and development at a big conference and events company, and I realized that I was very good at bringing in new clients, but we weren't as a business, and everybody else found this really difficult. So we pulled together a process that we use, and I'm going to run you through part of that process now. Just so I can check, is everybody, am I sharing screen now? Are you back on the slides? Just give us a thumbs up. Wonderful, wonderful. So the next part of this is all going to be around how to get new people into our funnel. Not just into our funnel, how to convert them through as well. Right, let me just make sure I'm on the right point. So I got a piece of advice a little while ago from our commercial director at the company that I was working at. Very, very smart guy. Did a lot more business than the rest of the office put together. There was probably 7 or 8 of us in that room, and this one person was doing more business than anyone else. He said, winning business is really, really easy, John. Very, very simple. You just got to keep asking until somebody says yes. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. He's going to go, of course, that's just what you do. The issue that most salespeople have is they give up too easily. You ring 4 or 5 prospects, it doesn't necessarily work. They go, I don't think this is quite working. And we've gone into businesses a number of times, set up a good process for them. They've got to the end of the day or got to the end of the week and they've gone, it didn't really work. We got 5 people saying yes, but over 100 said no. This might have been a company that at the start wasn't converting anything or was only doing 1, and that's seen as a negative thing. We need to understand as salespeople that we are going to get more yeses, more no's than we're going to get yeses. You will get to a stage where you're getting more yeses than no's. Great position to be in. But there's really 2 ways for us to bring in business. And I'm really conscious that we've talked a lot on sales clubs before about creating inbound leads by making noise, by getting a client to come to us and go, can you help us? It's one of the things that we do a lot of at Sales Geek. We give a lot of content away. We do things like this, and that brings in inbound inquiries for us. People get in contact and say, could you help us with this particular thing? But one of the things that we haven't talked about too much, and this is what we're going to talk about now, is how we can go out to the market sector. We can go out to someone who doesn't know who we are, doesn't know what we stand for, and completely cold, get them to have a meeting with us, to get that conversation going. And one of the issues that we have with this, see this time and time again, is people try and jump parts of this process. And I'm going to give you a really, really simple process that you guys can all use here that is going to help you when you're going out to the market sector. And this all comes under prospecting. So if you've got a pad, if you've got a pen, write this down. Methodology: who, why, and how. We're going to touch on the who, but there's a big part of target audience on there. It's another session on its own, so we're going to touch on that. But first of all, the easiest way for you to find your next best client is to think about your best existing client. Now, we've talked a lot about going to your best existing clients, getting referrals and that sort of thing. This isn't what I'm talking about here. I want you to just take, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes just to write this down, because this is really important. Because if you go out prospecting and don't know who your perfect target audience is, you're going to start prospecting all over the place and you will end up failing because you aren't going for people who are going to get the best value from you. So I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to just have a think about your current best client and what makes them your best client. A lot of people here are going to start writing down about revenue. That may be one of the factors within here. Maybe the amount of recurring revenue, might be the amount of referrals, might be the fact that you love working, that you love working with them, that you play golf with them every Saturday, that you go out with them when lockdown's not here and go drinking with them. But just have a think and write down 3, 4, 5, as many reasons as you can why that client you've got at the moment is your best client. I'll give you a couple of minutes just to do that, guys. So while everybody's doing that, I can see everybody sort of scribing away there. I also want you to just flip that around and not just think about why this person is your best client, but think about what are the issues and challenges that you solve for that person. Because whenever we do this exercise, we always get things down like, well, they buy quite a lot from us, they buy different products or services, they buy this, that, and the other, and we really like them. I'll get on very well with this person, I have a really good relationship. It's a lot of the standard things that we get. Just spin that round into what problems or what challenges do you solve for this person? Because that changes the way that we look at target audience, and we start looking for people who've got these problems, who might have these challenges, and you can start narrowing and niching down on that. So I'll give you a couple more minutes just to think about that. What problems do you solve for these people? What problems might they have? The other way you can look at this is look at your last few inbound inquiries that you got, or the last people that came to you. What problems, what challenges were they asking you to solve? Whenever we get an inbound inquiry, we often think, oh, I've got to jump on this and I've got to sell to this person. An inbound inquiry, when that comes to you, is ultimately someone saying, I need some help. Someone messaged me the other day. I was having a conversation with someone on LinkedIn, and I don't mind it. I was trying to close them. They said, I've got a problem. I've got a problem. I said, here's your solution. Do you want to buy this? And they went, stop trying to close me. I went, just exchange the word close for help. Just change that round in that sentence. What we're trying to do with it. Whenever anyone comes to you with an inbound inquiry, though, they're asking for help. If us as salespeople don't solve that problem, it doesn't create any revenue for us and doesn't help them as well. So just flip that word around in your head from close to help, and it completely changes the way that you're seeing it.
You're also never going to create advocacy from your clients and actually truly helping them as well. So if you think about your biggest business challenge that you have, or your biggest challenge, even at home, or whatever your biggest challenge is, if you found a business or a supplier who didn't just solve that problem, but solved it with icing and a cherry on top, how much more likely are you to promote them and advocate them when asked a question, or even proactively on social media, or whatever, or TripAdvisor, or whatever the thing is, than someone that sort of half fixes it? So although that the two different businesses would both earn the same money from you, although arguably you might pay a little bit more for the first one, you want to create advocacy. You don't want to go around acquiring clients. You want to create fans. And there's some amazing examples of this in the world, like Apple are a great example. Their fans their users, technically speaking, are fanatical about their products, but they've worked on that for decades. The other one is Harley Davidson. One of my favorite examples. There's not many people out there with Kawasaki and Honda tattoos on their body, but Harley Davidson are a motorbike manufacturer, exactly the same as all the other motorbike manufacturers, but they have created absolute fans of their business. Now, that's quite an extreme example, but even within what you do, if you go and target people that you can help the most, you are much more likely to create advocacy and promotion of your business by them back into yours, which ties back into what we said earlier about putting fans and sponsors back in. They might be deals you didn't close, but also your customers that you've absolutely over exceeded expectations will go back into the market and also become advocates too.
So now we've found a few of the reasons that we work well with existing clients. We can pull the factors together, pull an idea together of our best next client, our best target audience, the people that we want to go out and we want to be speaking to. We could do a full session on this. There's loads of different ways of pulling together target audience. We can look at past data. It's a really good way of doing it. We can look at past clients. We can look at what product we've got, and we can look forward. But what I want to focus on today is how we're actually going to be doing that, going out and doing that. So just for a second, I want you to imagine that we, as Sales Geek, we go out and we acquire dentistry practices. We go out and we buy dentistry practices and we bring them in as part of Sales Geek. The reason I'm using this is everyone understands dentistry. We all understand going to the dentist. So I want you to meet Jess. Say, for example, if we were acquiring dentistry practices and I've gone onto LinkedIn and I have found Jess. Now, however I do that, again, we'll run this again another day, and we found that Jess is our perfect target audience. I've looked at our past clients, I've looked at the problems and challenges the dentistry practice have, and I've found Jess. She's managing director of a dentistry practice, and I've gone, now I want to get in contact with Jess. So, need to think about the how. Now, sales has got more complicated. However you look at it, there is more ways than ever before to get in front of someone. Face-to-face, email, networking, referrals, content generating, inquiries, seminars, webinars, social media. The list goes on. Join a chamber. Yeah. The list goes on and on and on. There's more ways than ever before to reach out. And one of the biggest reasons behind this is the way that technology has changed. If you look at your mobile phone now, if you've got an iPhone or an Android and you go back onto the report as to where you spent your time on that phone, you won't have spent anywhere near as much time on the phone as you will have done on LinkedIn, as you will have done on social media, as you will have done on WhatsApp. And I find it fascinating when I look at mine and I get the weekly review of where have you spent your time on your iPhone, Jonathan, as to where I'm spending it. I used to literally spend between 9 and 5 with an hour for lunch on the phone. It was our route to market and we were very, very successful at it. That's changed. People aren't using the phone as much. We're using Zoom more as part of the process. So I want to just focus on 3 of those very close ones here to start with. Email, social media, and cold calling. 3 of the best and biggest routes to market. There are others, but we're just going to look at these for the moment. Now, one of the reasons that those are the best is because when Jess isn't got a toothbrush in her hand, she's normally got a mobile in her hand, which again, is around the email, social media, or cold calling. Let's say cold calling on the phone to somebody. That's where we spend most of our time. Different for everybody, and we'll talk about that in a second. But as a salesperson, if I said I'm going to try and get in contact with Jess, I'm going to use email. So I pull together a little email and I send it to Jess. I'm going to let you all have a quick read through that. You've probably all had an email similar to this from a salesperson trying to contact you. I've probably had 4 or 5 of these this week. Hi, I'm such a body. I do this, and this is a bit about me, and I want to talk about this. So that's one route, going through email to someone. Jess will probably see this. Not saying she'll read it, she'll probably see it. Do you know what? Jess didn't get back to me on my email, so I thought, do you know what? I'm one of these snazzy social selling people. So I jumped onto LinkedIn and I copied and pasted the message into LinkedIn because I'm snazzy and we do social selling as such.
You used snazzy 3 times there.
I'm pretty snazzy, mate. Bella dressed me this morning, so I'm very snazzy. And then the final one, do you know what? Jess didn't get back to me on my LinkedIn message. I can see she's read it as well because LinkedIn tells me that. I'm going to pick up the phone to Jess. And I give Jess my pitch that I've spent the last 3 hours pulling together for this one monumentous pitch that is going to make Jess want to speak to me. So I've got a question for all of you, and please put your notes in the chat here. What's wrong with all of these approaches? I've found Jess. I know she's the right person. I know I can help her. I know I can really speak to her. I can help her with an issue that she's having. I've reached out and I've told her all the ways that I can help her and all the ways I can solve the problems. But what's wrong with the approaches? Why isn't Jess getting back to me? I don't understand it. Not personalized, too generic. Wonderful, yeah, absolutely. Any others? Max spoke about yourself and didn't ask what she needs. Yeah, Jess also. Jess is not happy with me at the moment. Do you know what? She's not going to pick up that phone to me. I'm presuming I know her issues. Yeah, number 1. She doesn't know me. I could be anyone. Yeah, absolutely anyone. She could go on my LinkedIn though and go, do you know what? Geek Dentistry Partners look like a pretty good company. Max, you hit the absolute nail on the head. Me. All about me. Everybody look at me. Everybody look at me. Talk to me. I can do this for you. We, me. It's the thing that we see most in emails and outbound. I hate to say it. Nobody cares about no one cares about you. No one cares about what you think when you're going out prospecting to them. They don't know you. They don't trust you. So why would they care what you think? What they do care about is their issues and their challenges. The way that we need to do this is we need to find a way of standing out. These are all the dentistry companies, and we need to make sure that we are the blue duck between all the yellows. Out of all this presentation, that slide took me the longest to put together, so I hope you really enjoyed that one, guys.
It is hard to stand out. I mean, Jonathan said at the beginning, it's never been easier to reach people through multiple channels, but also it's never been harder to stand out. And also because people have been hit from various different angles, you do get a lot of no's, right? So whether that's sending messages out, emails out, phone calls out, and ultimately we have to understand the psychology of the people that are receiving this stuff. And again, this is a whole long session in its own right. But in really, really simple terms, our most primitive instincts as human beings are the survival instincts from our caveman days when we would chuck spears and throw fires at people when they stepped through the cave before we asked any questions. It's exactly the same. So even the most positive, most gratitudinal thinkers in the world, their survival instinct means they'll go and seek out the risk and seek out the negative things, like really, really instinctively will seek out the negative and the risk. So when you first doorstep somebody, when you first meet somebody, God forbid, at a networking event at some point over the next few weeks, although it'd be slightly more casual if it's organised by the chair. When you first meet people, when you first message people, when you first ring people, their instinct, first thing, isn't to think, oh, I wonder how this person could help me. It's, how's this person going to harm me? Now, that might sound really bad, but it's true. It's human instinct to protect ourselves. So that's the first question they're asking. They're thinking, well, if I just keep them away, then I'm going to be okay. So the guard comes up instinctively very, very early. So we have to find ways to build trust. And it's not about getting them to drop their guard, but it's about building trust as quickly as you can. So there's lots of different ways that we can do that. And Finch is about to touch into that right now, dude.
So I'm going to give you a really easy one there. This is what we use at Sales Geek, and this is how we outbound prospect to clients. This is one of the methods. We do others, still do cold calling. If I find someone out there who I see I can really help, I will go hell for leather on every communication challenge I can to open up that communication challenge to see if I can help them. So the methodology that we use, and honestly guys, if you can get your head around this, this will be a game changer for you when it comes to outbound prospecting. The secret formula, the nugget that I'm going to give you today, is compliment or congratulate someone, find common ground, and then ask. Give you a second to write this down. If you write nothing else down from this presentation that we've done today, write those 3 things down. So I'm going to go back to Jess. Now, again, we're very lucky at Sales Geek. We have a time machine. We're going to jump back to the start of when I decided I'm going to outbound prospect to Jess.
That's Citroen Berlingo again.
It's that Citroen Berlingo. And I'm going to go back to the start of the process when I decide that I'm going to prospect out to Jess. And I see Jess on LinkedIn and I go on her profile. And I click on her profile and I look at what statuses she's been putting up. I look at how she's been posting, what she's been doing on there. And I actually go and find something that is relative to Jess, that Jess is talking about and Jess knows. Sorry, Paul, 1 second, back to the last slide. Compliment, congratulate, find common ground, and then ask. I'm going to run you through this process now. So I've decided I'm going to go out to Jess, and I've gone through her profile, and I've found something that she's talking about. Now, Jess has mentioned on her profile that she's going to be exhibiting at the National Dentistry Show. So I messaged Jess, and I send her this message instead. So 2 statuses I've found here from Jess. One that she's just opened a practice in Clitheroe. Wonderful, know Clitheroe quite well. And she's also exhibiting at the National Dentistry Show. Both of those things show to start with that I have not just sent her that blank canvassy message that everybody seems to be sending through LinkedIn at the moment. I've gone onto Jess's profile and I've asked her something about her. Something that she's talking about, something that she's doing at the moment, something that's in her world and she's thinking about. If someone has taken the time to put something on LinkedIn, for example, to put a post, to put a status, that means they're thinking about it. It means it's in their world at the moment. Very, very useful for us when it comes to prospecting. We're going to talk about LinkedIn here because this is one of the biggest inquiries we're getting at the moment. This can be done for anything. Go on people's news sections on the websites, find out what people are doing, look in local publications around what people are talking about, awards that have been won. Brilliant way of engaging a conversation. So Jess decides, you know what? Gosh, seems all right. It's just messaging, asking about NDS, about practicing Clitheroe. She comes back to me with that message. Now, a few of you might be looking at this and going, Jonathan, this is great, but you know what? I need to get an appointment with Jess. I'm not here to just shoot the breeze with her. We're going to get to that in a second. The second message here that you can see that I've sent back to Jess has got an open question at the end of it. I'm not asking her for a meeting yet. I'm not asking her to get in front of me to see if I can help her with anything. I'm just engaging in conversation. If you want to book a meeting in with somebody and you've got outbound to them, it will normally take you between 5 and 6 interactions for them to go, you know what, I'd probably like to meet with this person. It might be worth us catching up. Again, it's about building that trust. The problem that people have at the moment is there's too many of these Facebook videos jumping out at the moment saying, I can give you the one tool for prospecting that's going to go out, and people download a bot onto LinkedIn, start firing out these thousands of messages to people and try and skip this step. If you want to succeed long-term in sales, you cannot skip the trust step. It's the biggest thing that you need to get with your clients. This is what this is about. It's building trust, and it's showing you're not a threat. Jeff comes back to me. He's also hinting on this message, and I say hinting, might be a bit challenging. It might be a bit of a challenge there at the moment. She said, I started off with a dentist surgery and now feel more like an MD, which is a big change for me. We're starting off that dialogue, that conversation with her. Next one I'm going to put in here is ask. I put a bit of empathy in there to start with. I can imagine we work with a lot of practitioners who really find themselves in scenarios. I've shown I know a little bit about what they're doing. I've talked about wisdom teeth in there. Something dentists don't know a lot about. And then at the end of it, I've asked, are you free next Thursday for a coffee over Zoom? I've not asked for a meeting so that we can talk about taking over your dentistry practice and see if we can pump more revenue in and take it over. I haven't asked for any of that. I said, do you fancy a coffee over Zoom? I'm not going to take her too long to jump on Zoom with me. I'm not asking her to drive to our offices, and I'm not also telling her what I think we can speak about. Again, there's a few things that we could support you with. Might be a few things we could help you with. Different terminology and different language. So at the end of that, Jess comes back to me. Do you know what? Sounds good. Changes it a little bit. Has anyone got any questions in regards to that process? Does anyone want me to go back to the start and just run through the methodology again? It is really, really simple, this, guys. But honestly, if you can get your head around this and do this consistently and can consistently go through this process, I promise you, you will get appointments from it. If you are getting appointments with your target audience, revenue will fall out of those. Depending on how good you are on that call and how good you are on that appointment, another session, we're talking here just about generating those appointments and getting those brought in. Jack, I'll just get back to the start then everyone can see that. But if anyone's got any questions, please fire those just onto the chat now, and I'll just make sure that we go through those. We're probably just about on time. Paul, do you plan a time to do this every day? Not every day. No, I don't do it every day, every single week though. If any of the Geek team go into my diary, I have blocks of it booked out that says prospecting. I turn my emails off. Sometimes I work from home. Sometimes I'll come in here and I'll stick a note on the door saying prospecting time. If you want to be bringing in new business consistently, you need to plan the time for it. Going back to what we talked about, how much your time is worth, if you look at where you're spending your time, prospecting is one of the best ways for you to bring in new business from people completely out there, but you have to book time in your diary to do it. That is your major time. So there's a phenomenal book called Killer Prospecting by Jeb Blunt. Anyone's got Audible, get it downloaded on Audible. It's a phenomenal book. The key to prospecting is being regimented in how you're doing it. Most people don't put time in and do a bit of it here and a bit of it there. If you're going to do a bit of it here and a bit of it there, you're going to get very inconsistent results. You need to be planning to get this in. I'll just click back to that first slide.
So before we just go back through this, I just want to talk to you about trust. I actually put a post out on LinkedIn about trust yesterday because I knew we were going to be talking about it today. I was hoping for a few more responses, but there we go. It doesn't always work out that way. So trust. So in the absence of trust, nothing happens. Sales never going to take place. I can't imagine every now and again, someone comes up with a really obscure example where it actually has, but not often. And what I'm about to talk you through today, there are one or two holes in this, but if you take this as a mindset to your sales activity, it will help you. And you might pick holes in it and say, well, I don't need to do that without that. And yeah, I've seen some examples of that. Like, if you want to ignore it. But I'm telling you, I learned this about 16, 17 years ago, and it helped me massively in the job that I was doing at the time as a slightly younger, less follically challenged salesperson. So in the absence of trust, sale never happens. So people need to trust you. But people trust people typically that they like. People tend to like people that they know And you're more likely to know someone if you see them. So trust has to be in place. People trust people that they like people that they know people that they see. The key one here for me, and for this benefit, is the see thing. So when you think about what Jonathan just took you through, when he sent Jess that message, it's just more or less likely to reply to Jonathan's message if over the last 3 to 6 months, Jess has found some of Jonathan's content on LinkedIn particularly valuable and engaging. More. Long game, infinite game. You should have people in your ether that you're not even reaching out to yet, who you are familiarizing with you. And the great thing is about seeing and visibility is it's never been easier to be visible. Now, it can be hard to stand out sometimes and to be the blue duck on the shelves of all the yellow ducks, or to be a flamingo in a flock of pigeons, as we'd say. It can be difficult. But also, particularly through social media, it's never been easier to make yourself visible. And unfortunately, people are more invisible than they think they are to their target audience. So my challenge for you going away from today is to think about how you can make yourself more visible to your target audience that either are engaging with you already, and they might be in that 75% that we talked about earlier. How do we maintain visibility with those guys? But also the people that you've not yet reached out to. So that massive, massive audience of people who you've not reached out to yet, there are a ton of ways that you can become more visible to them without selling to them. And that visibility means that they're going to get to know you. If they know you, they're going to get to like you. If they like you, they're more likely to trust you. So have a think about that. Apply that to your day-to-day life, and have a think about those people that Jonathan said about earlier that are on that target list, those people that are your perfect clients that are out there. They might be in Lancashire, they might be further beyond. How much of you do they really see? How much of your brand do they really see? How much of you as a person do they really see? Because personal branding, particularly for everyone on this session, is massive. We still, as a business, despite our growth, we still have, I would say, on balance, probably nearly half of our inquiries still come personally into our LinkedIn message boxes. We get web inquiries, we get a ton of web traffic, a decent conversion rate through website. It's amazing, but people still come and engage with us individually across our team. Personal branding, visibility, let them see you, let them get to know you, let them get to like you, and allow people to trust you. Because if they don't trust you, it's because you've done something to prevent that from happening.
So just a bit of a summary here, guys. Obviously, we've run through how you can prospect there. And again, the key to this is all around consistency. Prospecting is hard. There is no way about it. You are going to get more no's than you are going to get yeses. More people won't buy from you than will buy from you. And there's a big discussion here about what's easier, inbound or outbound. Outbound's great because you can go out to the market sector and be really targeted on the people you want to work with. Inbound's great because you've got people coming to you going, I've got a problem, but they might not be in your target audience. But prospecting is difficult. Don't worry about it. Don't spend nights thinking about it. Just understand that you are going to get more no's than you are going to get yeses. We get more no's than we do yeses. The reason that we're successful at selling is because that doesn't put us off. We carry on going. There are no standard routes to market. There used to be. You used to be able to go knock on doors and that was your route to market. You used to be able to just cold call people and that was the route to market. There's so many different communication styles now and so many more ways of getting in contact with each other. Everybody is different, but using this methodology that we've talked about, you can do it on LinkedIn, you can do it on email, you can do it on the phone, you can do it through Snapchat, you can do it through any media of communicating, but use that methodology that we've talked about there. Prospecting requires discipline and organization. As Paul mentioned before, do you block time out for this? Yes, absolutely. Major time. We want to be bringing in more business. I have to be engaging and speaking to more people. Major time for me. Very easy for me to spend 2-3 hours looking at our CRM and doing a bit of the cleanup on there. Doesn't really move the ship forward. Doesn't make things go faster. Most salespeople give up too easily. Key one there, going back to prospecting is hard. Don't give up. Don't give up. Keep going. Every time that you give up, your competitor will probably be carrying on. We have to be better than they are. We have to be outworking them. And finally, everyone is trying to find the golden ticket when it comes to prospecting. Everyone's trying to find the app that you can download for $5 per month that'll just fire out messages and bring in revenue. Trust me, it doesn't exist. It isn't out there. There are things that you can use to make things smarter, There are things that you can use to make things better. But if you're going to be good at prospecting, if you're going to be good at bringing in new clients, you have to speak to more people. Just keep asking until someone says yes.
Everything works for a bit. And when you find something that works, it's got a shelf life, even whether that's as an individual or as a business. So you have to be willing to try different things and be diverse in your approach, because at any given week, any given month, any different year, one thing will work better than others. So if you are one-dimensional, you're leaving yourself massively exposed to risk. We're going to open up the questions. We've got just under 10 minutes left. So fire your questions on the chat. While you are getting your questions on the chat, for anything, no holds barred, I'm just going to go back to a question that was asked a little bit earlier on by John Connor, I think it was, about, I suppose, a little bit about the difference between B2C and B2B. The good news is there's not as much difference in it as most people think there is. I think a lot of people overthink the difference between B2B and B2C. And fundamentally, we're dealing with human beings, right? And so it's human to human selling, whether that person is got the professional hat on or whether that person has got their personal hat on. So we've done content before at Sales Clubs. We talk about the brain and how the limbic system works, the prefrontal cortex, and how people make decisions. Not going to go into that now. But fundamentally, if there is a difference between B2B and B2C, is in B2B, if there is an absence of need from the prospect, the transaction is never going to take place. Okay, there has to be a need in place for a B2B buyer, typically, most of the time, to want to buy the thing that you're buying. Now, in B2C, there can be a little bit more of an absence of need, and people will buy a bit more of what they want rather than what they need. So I'm sure a lot of people on this call have bought impulse purchases and gone and bought that watch or that dress or that pair of jeans or that thing. They didn't need it, but they wanted it. So consumers will typically buy more of what they want and not always what they need, although need will always overtake want. But in B2B land, it's very need orientated. There are examples, there are some exceptions to that, but as a general broad rule, there has to be a need in place. So when you're qualifying people, ensure there's a need. Now, the great thing about B2C and consumers is actually they can be easier to make advocates of your product. So people generally in their conversations tend to talk more about the things they buy as consumers than they do about the things they buy as a business. So I would argue that if you are B2C, you've got a better job, or sorry, you've got more of a head start on creating fans and advocacy. We tend to be more promoting of the things we buy as consumers because it affects us personally. Therefore, there's a deeper emotional connection, and so on and so on and so on. But we'll get into that in a different days. Hopefully, John, that answers your question enough. We've got some questions on here. Is there a particular time of day, week when LinkedIn is more successful?
When is the best time to prospect? Get asked this a lot. Is there a best time to prospect? Yes, the best time is now.
Yeah.
When you get off this, go prospect, go meet some people, go talk to some people, engage with some people. Given there are better times, sometimes you could try evening, sometimes you could try morning. The thing that I'd say is it's different for everybody. You look at when I use LinkedIn, most of the time when I use LinkedIn, I'm normally in the evening, I have a scroll through it, I see what's going on the feed, I start engaging with people. It's different for other people. I know Richard's a big advocate, using it in the mornings. So it depends who you're trying to get in contact with. If you're trying to tell us a new CRM and you're trying to get in contact with me, you'd be better speaking to me probably in the evening because I'll get back to you. I haven't got all my emails pinging at me. If you want to speak to Rich first thing in the morning before he comes in, it's different for everybody. But yeah, the best time to prospect and to use LinkedIn is now.
I think people overthink LinkedIn as well. I think there's a lot of sort of like LinkedIn gurus out there that will say, you know, Tuesdays and Thursdays between 2 and 6 p.m. are the best time and stuff. Do you know what? There might be some accuracy in that, but here's the big but. It depends what your level of activity is right now. If you are already like at 95% of your absolute LinkedIn game and you are smashing it, you're already in like the top 1 to 5% of LinkedIn users in terms of content and engagement and doing all the things right, then those little things will make a difference. If you're honest with yourself and you're not, okay, it's like a really bad footballer spending 120 quid on a pair of boots rather than 60 quid on a pair of boots. It's not going to make a lot of difference. The worst content you ever publish is the content you never publish. Okay, so you're better off getting content out at the wrong time than you are trying to be all scientific about it, and kind of, you can end up a bit of, I suppose, paralysis by analysis is the old term. We see that a lot. People get so transfixed with doing it right, they don't do it enough. Now, doing it enough is far more important than doing it right to the absolute detail.
The other thing, and I don't want to turn this into a social selling course because it definitely isn't. It's about outbound prospecting, but be careful with LinkedIn. The money on LinkedIn is in the messenger function, not on the feed. The feed is good for seeing what people are doing and what they're talking about, but that isn't where the money is. The money's in getting an appointment with them and a message through on LinkedIn. Do not think that scrolling down LinkedIn is social selling. It isn't. It is time wasting. Finding your target audience, clicking on them, seeing what they're talking about, good time there, worthwhile. Scrolling down the feed, it's just time wasted. Now, I'm not saying don't do that. It's like Facebook. It's enjoyable. I love scrolling down the feed. It doesn't really help me though when it comes to sales.
So before we sign off, and obviously we'll hand back over to Simon and the guys at the Chamber. Just a massive thank you for your engagement in the session. Please do get those posts out on LinkedIn about Sales Club. We want to get more people to the September event. It'd be amazing to get back into that first live event with a load of people there. There's more energy, it's more fun, more hugs for those that want to hug as well. But it's been really, really good fun doing this. We've really enjoyed it. It feels like it's been a lifetime since the last one that we did. But it's only as good as you guys make it. So thank you very much for your participation. But please go and be an advocate for Sales Club. Go and promote it to your audience. Let's get more people to the farm in September hugging llamas. It'll be good fun.
Brilliant. That's all from us, guys. I'll hand back over to Simon.
Brilliant. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Jonathan. Do you want to just take that last question from Gav? What are your thoughts on contacting customers through text and WhatsApp once you've created the relationship? Is it too informal?
No, it's not. It's definitely the right thing to do. So WhatsApp's my favorite. WhatsApp over text, text over email, email over anything else. But WhatsApp is amazing. When you think about it, psychologically, although it's personal's a good thing. Now, you need to judge it, don't get me wrong, but I'm personally never offended. If I've got someone that I'm having conversation with who's got my mobile, if they drop me a WhatsApp, I've got no issue with that at all. But psychologically, they're now living in the part of my phone where my friends live, where my family live, where the people who I trust most live. So by association, there's more trust involved with people that are in your WhatsApp box, unless they're being complete idiots, obviously. The other great thing with WhatsApp, if used properly, WhatsApp gives you a little profile picture, a little icon. So again, going back to what we put on here, people don't just read your text and hear from you, they get to see your face every time they get a message. Every time that pops up on the home screen, they see a little picture of your face and a picture of your face and a picture of your face. They're going to see you, know you, like you, trust you, then they're going to buy from you.
I send much more WhatsApps to clients than I do emails. If you looked at it, I'd probably say 70% of my comms will be done over WhatsApp. I do the formalities through email.
And you can do video and voice notes as well on WhatsApp. And, again, we can do another session on this another day. But if you're just using text-based communication on WhatsApp, you are missing a trick. Video comms and voice comms through WhatsApp is a massive game changer for people for prospecting and account management.
Cool. Comprehensive answer. Thanks, gent. Thank you to everyone for taking part as well. The only bit I'm battling with is if Bob had a time machine, why does he not just go back, buy a winning lottery ticket and sack the biscuit game completely? I mean, that's what he should be doing.
He's not very smart. You can see from the presentation. He gets smarter.
He's passionate about biscuits, Simon. He just loves his biscuits.
Loves his biscuits, yeah. All right, brilliant. Well, you two guys are passionate about your sales, and we are, as ever, very grateful. We will include Jonathan and Richard's contact details for the few of you that don't already have them in the follow-up email. A copy of the slides as well. Gents, are we all right to do that? Or yeah, okay.
One thing I wanted to mention though, Simon, we will forward out a copy of the Lancashire Sales Survey to the Chamber to forward out to everybody. I just want to put it in a bit more of a readable format. We get a really comprehensive report, but I'll send that out. Have a read through it, guys. It was great for us to look at it and go, do you know what? There's a lot of people in the same boat here. So we will get that sent out to absolutely everybody. Everybody who entered as well, the Lancashire Sales Survey as well, you have been entered into a draw, which we'll either do on the next Sales Club for £1,200 worth of free sales training from Sales Geek by entering, but we'll probably do that draw either next time or on a live on LinkedIn.
Great. So everyone on the back of this call are going to go and immediately start prospecting. But before they do that, they're going to go and immediately book onto the next sales club, which, as we've already said, is at the Wellbeing Farm on the 9th of September. And you'll find the booking link at chamberlive.co.uk. Have yourself a great Thursday, everybody. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this Chamber Live video from the East Lancashire Chamber of Commerce. If you've enjoyed this content, then you might enjoy some of the other content that's on the screen now. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel.